that I keep thinking how I need to work more with coaches because I do it all with my own clients, and that is harder for sure. So I just did everything that you told me to do from the beginning because I had one client, and I had maybe one client for about 3 months. And I didn't do anything that was suggested for me to do. I didn't have a list of people that I wanted to talk to. I didn't have a plan. So as soon as I started participating in the coaching calls, like giving the step guide to do, I started following all those instructions. So I made my hundreds list. I'm on Facebook anyway, so it was really easy for me just to share more on Facebook about it, and people just started to appear magically on through through using those tools. So I think the most important thing I took away from it was whatever was suggested, I tried, and if it didn't feel really comfortable for me or like a natural thing for me to do, I didn't really expand on it very much, but I tried it. So coming up with the hundreds list felt a little hard at first. And then after reaching out to people on that group, I found other people responding, not really people on the list, but it was just making the action, doing it, and being as consistent as possible. More people were exposed to it, whether they're on my list or not. So, so just generating the activity brought more people into my life. And when we were at your coach's dinner the other night, I heard a lot of people saying they didn't really feel comfortable sharing it on Facebook because they felt it sounded salesy or like it wasn't genuine, and they didn't want to come off that way. But after hearing story after story after story of all the people that were in the backyard, everyone found it really from Facebook and friends and people sharing it. And so I just know for myself, I would not have had the success and lost 65 pounds if I didn't see Tracy posting it on Facebook and talking to Jeannie about it. So I feel 100% that is the right thing to do, to put it out there. And I don't stalk people. I don't call people randomly. I don't try to sell them anything. I just share what I'm doing. And if people want that, which a lot of people do, because I get calls constantly. So I just do whatever you tell me to do. I don't have a secret or a trick. And none of it's my own.
But I love that, Lily, because it's a duplicatable system. And I would say the exact same thing that you did. I did what Doug and Tia told me to do, and I did it consistently. And I took the action even when I didn't always feel like it. And if it didn't feel comfortable, I tweaked it to be authentic to me, yet still staying within the system and the process. And you're right, it works. It's kind of like the 5 in 1. If you work the program, I'll guarantee you it will work for you. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I think that really helps. And it really goes right into what Doug is going to train on for the next, 10 or 15 minutes about really increasing the quality of our share and how to acquire clients. Because I know that every single one of you on this call, that is exactly why you're on this call. You want to help people. So Doug, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jen, and everybody. It's good to see everyone. Momi, I love what you just shared about you're just kind of doing it. And what I also heard you saying was you're not overthinking it. And I think sometimes, at least especially in the beginning or when I get off course in my share, because as long as I've shared the program now for almost 7 years, sometimes you can begin to sound so rehearsed in sharing the program that we stop making it fun, and then we actually stop making it sound easy, and how easy it really is. And Momi, you're having fun, you're just sharing, you're not overthinking it. And also we're not prejudging what we think that they think. We're just sharing and letting them decide. The biggest mistakes I know I make is thinking I know what other people are thinking. And the problem is, and what I've really found, they're not thinking, and they're especially not thinking about me, and they were never thinking that. So I was projecting something on them. So Jen, I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to It's a lot of information here, but I just want to let you guys know the mindset that I go into a share with. And one of those is that I'm ready to start a client at all times. Nothing worse than thinking that you can't start a client right now or you don't have that conversation now. So when someone says they're interested in program, in fact, I just had somebody this morning on Facebook, good buddy of mine from high school. I mean, he's been clearly watching me for 7 years. I even communicated a little bit, and he's always been a very fit and healthy guy. Finally, he reached out today and said, all right, I need to lose 20 pounds. You got any tips for me? And when I see that message come in, I stop what I'm doing unless I'm like in a meeting or whatever. I get back to them right away. So it's be ready, be urgent, because you never know how long that window is going to be for somebody. And obviously, this is, what I'm about to share is after we've created the relationship. So I use this analogy, and this is Mount Hood up in just outside of Portland, Oregon, up on the Hood. And a lot of people scale this mountain in the middle of summer and winter, but it's safer during the summer. And where they start off from is this lodge called Timberline Lodge. And I've been there. This is where I ski when I'm in Portland and snowboard. It's a great lodge. You can see all the runs through there, but that's where people start their hike. And then they literally scale all the way up to the very top of Mount Hood. And why I show this to you is because a lot of people have died on this mountain, because they have literally taken the mountain and they've went straight up. Because in fact, if you can see my cursor moving, there's ski lifts and stuff right there. That's a glacier, and they'll go straight up. And this is the mindset that I look at sharing the program with people, is that I'm the guide and I can take them to the top of the mountain. However, there's a strategic way of getting there, but it's based, yes, on their goals, but also on knowing what's best for them. Because let me show you the actual route and the safest route to get to Mount Hood, to get up on top. So this is the same thing. But if you look, that the people that end up going straight and thinking that they're taking a shortcut down through the hill, that's a deadly crevasse. And many people have died in that crevasse multiple times, because the straight shot is to go right up there before you scale the mountain. But we know that actually the safest route is to avoid that crevasse and go up there. Now, this is not a mountain climbing lesson, all right? But this is something this is the approach that I take, that we, are literally the guide. And that sometimes the easiest route may not be the safest route. And so I want to make sure I'm educating my potential clients with that, because literally I think it's our job to reach out and help people who feel like they're drowning and taking them to the next level. So really the first thing is being their guide. Not everyone may want the same thing. So it's helping people and having that conversation with them. I'm going to move through some of these a little bit quick just because of my limited time, and I don't know if I'll get through it all. But hopefully this helps you to increase the quality of your share. So before talking to a client, remember that posture and confidence, knowing that this is the best program around or that even exists. Somebody 2 days ago when I was out in Laguna Beach, I was talking to somebody there, and they said, what's the difference between you and Advocare? And I chuckled. I literally laughed. I'm like, where do you want me to start? And I'll tell you what we do. I don't know what Advocare does, but I will tell you what we do. And because what I was doing immediately was I was taking a posture that, first of all, I wasn't going to go into a keeping score. Well, Advocare does this and we do this. No, it's not even in the same discussion. And also remembering how powerful stories of transformation are. How powerful stories are. Sometimes we think that it's all about we don't have any good stories, or we might not have a weight loss story, or we don't have much of one. You do, but you know of other people whose life has been transformed. So really our comprehensive system, what is it? We obviously know it's the MetaFast 5-in-1 meal plan, the habits of health, and a health coach. But then what about the value? We have so much that we offer, from the support to the health coach, to corporate, to the habits of health system, to all the Zooms. They call it the virtual clinic. That should be changed out to Zooms. But one thing that I found that we end up getting immediately into conversations about with clients is, why are we always talking about the food? Have we forgot the value of what our program really has to offer? You, the health coach, is priceless. The community, the Zooms that we have, the client support Zooms on Monday night at 5:15 are priceless. But for some reason, we end up, how much is your program? Right? Or, oh, it's this. And then we start talking food talk and we forget about the value. And so, again, these are just posturing things that you're always keeping in your mind about, what have you forgotten about the value? And if you find the conversation ever with a current client or a potential client getting into price and concepts of cost, then I would quickly find a way to shift that conversation to value and what they want and what their experience is. In fact, I'm going to back up real quick. Think about iPhone. You don't buy an iPhone necessarily all the time, or an Android even, for what that phone can just do for you. You buy it a lot of times for the experience and the follow-up, and that how Apple takes care of you throughout that process. And so just remember that, the same thing that we provide. So a couple of things to keep in mind when someone wants to know how to lose weight or about TSFL. A lot of times we'll talk about the amazing 5 and 1 and how it could work for them also. We'll fill them in on the Habits of Health system and how we're not a diet, but we're an optimal health program. We'll share stories of success, and all these things are good. But really, what about finding out their why? Because we all know this. Everyone wants to know how much it costs. Everyone wants to know how your diet is different than, and they name it. How does your food taste? How much will I lose? And those are all fair questions. But something that more than anything you're going to find is that people are going to come to you in an oscillating desperation circumstance. And what that's going to do is you can either pull them into who we are, or you can, I'm going to stop share so I can see some of you guys, is what you'll end up doing is you'll get in a cat and mouse conversation with them about food and well, it's this, and we're different from this, and how are you the same as this insert name of company, and you start playing their game, okay? And it's not a game, but let's just say their game. It's a game when you start playing theirs. It's an experience when you start asking them, well, depends on how much what you're looking to accomplish. We should chat about what your health goals might be and see if my program's even a fit for you. Because what you're doing by that conversation is you're removing the roadblock, and you're inviting them into, really, you're posturing yourself as their health coach from day one, from first conversation. Well, how are you different than this? What is it you like so much about that? Asking them questions versus going into defense mode, and then all of a sudden you're on defense. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense there. Okay, now I wish I had more time. During the very beginning of this conversation, it's such a beautiful sight, I know. No need to verbal vomit about how great you are and the 5 and 1 is, because then you're going into a cell, okay? But what you really want to do, and what they're asking is, keep in mind, even when people come with a little bit of tension built up to your conversation, remember, they're not asking you to argue. Most people aren't. They really are trying to figure out and talk themselves into saying, can I do this? What would it look like? What would it look like for me? And people are so defensive. Well, I only eat organic. And then you're kind of thinking to yourself, yeah, clearly too much, because from the looks of it, you're spending a lot of time eating organic. There's a reason that they're talking to you, even if they're holding on to what they think works. Okay. No one's just taking time out of their day to call up Doug and just shoot the crap with me about my program with zero interest either for them. They want to know, but they're actually just seeking to understand, because they're asking, can they do it? Can they do it? Okay. The biggest thing is focusing on, you've heard this a million times, but how important that is. Because what I know is, often what they want and why they want it. And if they're clear on what they want and why they want it, how they get there will become so minor. Look at athletes that want to win at the highest level. Okay. They will risk cheating or putting something in their body that will give them their shortcut, even if it goes against everything within them, because they want the results more. So remembering that people will compromise on their, I'm going to call them concepts. We're not talking values as much, but their concepts, because they want the results more than they want to be right. Okay. And if they see trust in you and conversation with you, and that they're not feeling like they're wronged or they're going to be proved wrong, the conversation will get to that mutual place, easier and quicker. So, really, before I can tell someone how, obviously I must know why, and asking these questions. And here's where I'll kind of wrap up, is asking questions. This is where I think the guide process begins in taking somebody up the mountain, is asking questions always, and more questions. Or if you're sensing defensiveness in the conversation, asking questions will always give you the words to say. It'll reveal the true need of what's going on. It'll position you with the posture as a health coach that's beginning to build that bridge of trust. And it will give you confidence to share, knowing the need and how you can assist. Of course, will allow you to hear concerns and address them when you share, and also allows you to hear concepts that you can help them through at the later time. And of course, ties an emotion to their program, and is that in the early stages of helping them reach optimal health versus an ongoing diet. And, really where I would encourage you guys as you begin this process with people is, Dave Blanchard shared it with us 2 weeks ago on the Saturday morning session. He talked about every person, usually, especially when you're sharing program with them, is holding on to 60% of their energy is being expressed. They're holding on to 40% of their true feelings or their emotion, or sometimes it's a concept or a belief that may or may not be true. And they're giving you 60% of what you see. Their why is hidden in the 40%. And if we can ask good questions, or if we can find a common ground, some of you guys have done 3-way calls with me or Zooms, and I'll spend the first 10 minutes getting to know you, or actually your coach or your client. We won't even be talking take shape for life. Well, hey, what part of the country you live in? Texas. Really? I'm going there next month. No way. What part of Texas? So I'm looking. Yeah, it was, they have a Nike hat on. Oh, you play golf? Or, a golf hat. I mean, I will find something to build a relationship before we even dare go into client celebration or meet and greet or how to go ED, because it's that 40% that's holding on. That's the trust. And I know that if I can break down that 40% and they can see that we're just real normal people, the conversation will excel 10 times quicker just by tapping into that 40%. And that 40% is their hidden why. And usually, and then also, last but not least, is anything that they're holding on to, or that they say that they're doing, even if it's not right. I always look for something that they are doing right to overly compliment them on. First of all, congratulations for just being willing to have this conversation. I know it's hard to talk about, health and moving forward. So congrats to you. Or, I wake up every morning and first thing I eat is a banana and have a mocha and a cold piece pizza. Okay, congratulations. We have the habit of health of eating breakfast every day. I mean, obviously we know that those are probably 3 of the worst things they could have for their first meal, but they don't need to hear that. They already think that everything's wrong anyway. So I'm always looking for some to help them and congratulate them on something they're doing right. But then the greater question is, would we like to speed up, the results? One of my best follow-up questions is when I shared the program, say a couple weeks ago, I'll text them today, and they said that they're going to start, name it, Beachbody, or they're going to start doing this, or they're going to try some stuff at the gym. I'll text them and I'll say, hey, how is insert Beachbody? How is it going with the trainer at your gym? How are your results? I know how important you getting to your healthy weight is. How's that going for you? What I'm doing is I'm playing the role of the health coach before I'm even their official health coach on paper, but I'm beginning to model that support to them just through my follow-up, because what that is, that models to them also that I heard them. They were heard. And also, if they haven't seen results in the last 3 weeks, I'm following up with them asking why not, and then it kind of merges into a bigger conversation. But all in all, I'll leave you with this, Jen. I'll turn it back over to you. Is have great conversations. Let the conversation flow when sharing the program be fun, be uplifting, be natural. Congratulate them on what they are doing, and more than anything, as you're wrapping up the share, always, if you feel like they're a good candidate for the program and they could do the program, always ask for them, are you ready to get started? Be comfortable with asking them. Don't get to that awkward area of the end of the call, like, so, and then it's just like, where do we go from here? Repeat their why to them. Doug, sounds like, you really want to lose this 60 pounds. That's awesome. No doubt the program is going to take you there, probably in 14 to 16-ish weeks. Really, all I know from you is, are you ready to get started? Pause. Let them make that, I think, one of the biggest and greatest decisions they could ever make of their life. And then don't say anything. Let them think about it. Don't be afraid of the answer. It might be, I need to think about it. I don't know. Yes, we don't know what it's going to be, but I think a lot of times people don't get started because they're not offered the chance to get started. And so anyway, Jen, thank you for letting me just share for a few minutes.
Thank you. That was so valuable, and I think it hit. I'm seeing heads nod, big eyes, smiles, because I think it absolutely hit exactly what we were needing to hear on this call. And so I know, Doug, you got to hop off and go.
Yeah, I wish I could stay on, but I do have a meeting.
I know. Well, thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Recorded. And I took some screenshots that I'll post up for the team later. But thank you, Doug.
And last but not least, do invite your clients to the 5:15 call. On Monday nights. It's tonight. In fact, Eric Hunsberger is going to be hosting it. And I tell you, all the clients who are getting on there and being consistent, just like health coaches, you guys that are on here consistently are always the ones that see the most growth long-term. Doesn't always show up the next day, but over time, integration does. And we see the same thing for our clients. But I know clients don't get on there by just a random text or seeing it posted in a client page. Personally invite them today. Hey, come and I'll be on there with you. Would you like to be on? And it's a powerful call and experience for them. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So I want to take the opportunity while these thoughts are fresh in your mind, and I saw some of you taking notes, and I want to open it up for a little bit of discussion. I have a few things that I want to close the call with, but I do think it would be great to hear from you now what you just heard. Kind of process maybe some of the things that you just heard, any questions that you would have, or your experience in that regard. Anyone? Go for it. Oh, she's saying 1 second. Okay.
All right, you're probably going to hear Finn here in the background. I just think it's just a share really, but I do think I'm going to go ahead and start, as you said, at the picnic, adding the layer of Facebook. I sort of keep thinking that they're just going to come, but they're not going to come if I don't put myself out there. And again, I think I do have a lot of did have a lot of hesitation, I think, because I don't necessarily have that take shape for life story. I do have a weight loss story, but I can really start to see now just the value of sharing, and I feel like I'm ready to just share, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
But these coaching calls have been really helpful, and it was great meeting a lot of you guys on Thursday? Yeah. So just some thoughts.
Yes, thank you, Jen. I always love thoughts from Jen Hoffman, and as you guys get to know her, you will too. Anyone else want to, I think one of the things that I heard that I'm like, oh, so true. And I even think it about my own self. But that people hold on to 40% of their true feelings. And as I was, as he said that, I was thinking about the call that I just did on Saturday. I happened to be in Target when she called me back at 3:00. And so I went and stepped in a corner and put my kids on a game, like go play that game. I'm standing in this corner, don't move. Because I am available at all times when it comes to getting a new client started. Doug mentioned that at the beginning, that he's kind of always, when it comes to getting a new client started, that's what I do. And it's more about them than it is me. Because when they are ready, I want to capitalize on that because that's a scary step for them. So if they've taken the time to call me back, or if they've shot me a text saying, can we talk right now? I absolutely am going to be available because I know that they're like, okay, here I go. And as I listened to her, the money back guarantee thing, I said, well, what are you afraid of? She was afraid she's not going to succeed. It's exactly what he said. They want to know if they can do it. She was like, I just don't know if I can do this. It's like, okay, well, let's try this for a month. And that's the beauty of having a coach. And then I also did share with her, I said, and there's a community of support. We have an online Facebook group. We have a call every minute. I said, I have, she's like, well, I lose weight slower, which I've heard that a million times. Well, I'm the girl that doesn't, that tries everything and it doesn't really work. I said, well, I have nutrition support. We have doctors. We have nurses. I have an entire support structure that we will be able to troubleshoot and make this work for you. Oh, we never once talked about the reality of why she wanted to go to my website. She wanted to see the food. So I was like, no, I don't really have a website to show you the food. I have the video. And she even said to me, she goes, that video didn't really show me the food. I get the big picture. And I'm like, yep. I personally made a decision when I started coaching. And some of it's because I learned the hard way with my first few clients. It can't be about the food. So the food is not a secret. I'm not trying to manipulate about the food or anything. It just can't be about the food. So I constantly redirect my people and my clients to not be about the food. It'd be about all the other stuff, basically what Doug showed with that slide. Because what happens is so much we focus on the food, but really it's everything else that's going to enable their success. So, but the only way to get to that 40% is to shut our mouths and listen to theirs. And then sometimes have the courage to ask the bold question of, well, what are you afraid of? Why do you need a money back guarantee? What are you afraid of? And then pause. And oftentimes there is silence on that other end. Because they don't even necessarily, haven't even reflected long enough to know what they're afraid of. They just know that they've been living with this fear. It's also the way to build relationships. Yes, the art of asking questions. It is actually, thank you, Momi. That's actually on our team page. If you go under the files, art of asking questions is a video posted there that I highly recommend you going and watching and listening to. Who else wants to share something or what resonated? Please, Amy, go for it. Just unmute yourself.
I had to figure out where that was at. Okay, the thing that I really took away from Doug talking was the always ask, are you ready to get started? That is a part that has really stopped me. I feel like I do pretty good at getting to their why and asking their questions, sometimes not, but usually I'm asking the questions and sharing, what 3 components are of the program and stuff. But then I get to the end and I sort of I don't know where to go next. So now that I have that in my wheelhouse, in my pocket, I know, those are the words I need to say. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like a light bulb for me. I'm like, oh, that's what I need to say there.
Absolutely. Memorize that little sentence. It's the 6 magic words. Are you ready to get started? And think back to it would take an extremely precocious, gregarious person to be like, well, let's do this. How do I get started? It's a very rare person.
Right. That's true.
Even when I got started, I remember I was with Tia in person, and I mean, clearly that being aggressive is not an issue for me. And I remember walking up to her sheepishly, so what do I do now? Like, I just even practically.
Hold on, guys.
What do I do? So hold on. I'm going to mute you, Janine. But anyways, so if you, they need to be asked that question. It will, first of all, and it also helps you know where they're at, because it forces them to say yes, no, or ask more questions.
Right. I kind of find myself like saying, so do you need to talk to your husband? You know, and I'm like, oh, don't do that, Amy. Afterwards, I think I shouldn't have said that. I should have postured that differently. And so, I think I'm just going to write that at the bottom of my stuff. And it's like, that's what I need to say. So when I get to that awkward point, say that, and then just let them take the ball from there and tell me what they're thinking.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is a good point, what you just said. When somebody tells me that they want to ask their husband, you know, that's a common thing. Like, well, let me talk to my husband. Awesome. I'll give them a time that I want to follow up, but I don't put those concepts in their head.
Right. That's why I was like, oh, you know, I really shouldn't have said that. I should have, you know, yeah. Because
that was true for me. I needed to talk to my husband.
Right.
But, so I assumed
we both started, so.
Yep. But yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Same thing. Like, honestly, I don't talk about cost. I'll share a program and not even tell them how much it costs. I share the full program. It takes me like about 3 minutes to share the full program, about a minute on each little piece. And then I'll say, do you have any questions? And usually cost is not their first question. Cost usually comes up after I say, are you ready to get started? And then they go, oh, well, I guess I should probably know how much it's going to cost me. I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that. But I mean, when you really are like discovering their why and all of that, typically cost does not even get brought up until you ask the question, are you ready to get started? Eric and Jeannie, or Jeannie's nodding at that, so she must have the same experience. But who else? Any other, anything else you want to, yep, go for it, Ash.
I think one of, for me anyways, the big takeaway was the act as if you're already their coach with following up, because I believe that if they're not ready yet, they will be ready by you showing them that you're there. I had a client sign up last week that was referred to me by a former client that I haven't worked with for 2 years training wise. And she had referred me to her mom. And it was because I had continually followed up with the daughter, and just acting as if, I think that's kind of my personal model in life. That's how I became a Charger Girl, was I acted as if I was already there. And I think that was a very quick moment that he had talked about. But that's huge on my part with being able to follow up with clients. They're already a client. They're just not on the program. So I think that was a really beneficial aspect.
That, what you just said, is a part of Take Shape for Life's like habits of transformation. Really, we call it lead from the future and act in the now. So it is behaving in your daily as though you already are. And that's exactly what Doug was talking about as it relates to people who are not your clients yet, that you desperately want to help, and they perhaps are on your hundreds list, and maybe you have a relationship with them, maybe you don't, maybe you have a relationship with their family member, whatever, but you act as though it already exists and it already has occurred. And that is kind of, you really set me up, and I'll let you guys share again at the end, but I want to take the next 5 minutes. You set me up for something that I'm somewhat passionate about in every area of my life. I found it absolutely true for success as a health coach. And I was on another call earlier this morning and it got brought up. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to talk about that for a second. It's about the word try. And as new coaches, I get on these Zooms, and either whether it's with one of your coaches or even a new client, well, I'm going to try. I find that to be like, then we're not going to do very well. You, as a coach, you're probably not going to be coaching in a few months from now. And as a client, like, oh, great. Well, let's hope we can get you through the first 4 days. And just recently, like as I was thinking about this morning, I thought about, I was invited on Friday to a play thing after school with all my kids. And I literally said to the mom, we're sitting next to each other at like a presentation thing that our kids were doing. She's like, so are you going to come? Are you going to? I said, I'm going to try. That was my really nice way of saying no. And I knew it when I said it. I'm like, why am I not just telling her no? Part of it was because I felt bad because I was glad to be invited. I just really wasn't up for taking my kids swimming. So, but I knew it when I said, I'm going to try. It's like, no, you're not. You either are or you aren't. And this isn't about trying something new but the reality is when we say we're going to try, you either are or you aren't. And so I don't mean to be totally harsh, but sometimes those words, well, hope so, or I'm going to try. The reality is the only way you will is if you commit to. If you either say yes or you say no. And, it's totally, I've heard this quote, I've seen it posted in memes everywhere. It's a good one though. It says, if you think you can or think you can't, you are mostly right. You either will or you won't. And as coaches, when Doug and Tia called me about, hey, we'll give away 2 items off of Kick Fear in the Face apparel for anybody in your team that starts, the top 2 people that start the most new clients in the next 6 days. I was like, okay. And then I said, well, I'm going to start with me. I didn't say, oh, okay, well, I'll try to. Like, I either am or I'm not. And that's the reality of it, because the truth is the process works. And so sometimes my concepts or my fears or my busy schedule or whatever it is holds me back. So then I say, well, I'll try. I probably won't. And so as a result, I had talked to that girl on Facebook Friday. As soon as Doug and Tia called me on Saturday morning early and said, hey, this is what we're thinking. I'm like, absolutely. I'll post a video this afternoon because I just posted something and I didn't want to like double up your guys' feed. I'm like, I'll post it this afternoon and now I'm going to go start a client. And I texted that girl and said, when can we follow up? Because I'm either going to or I'm not going to. And Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. And I know that that's hilarious, but it's Yoda, but do or do not. There is no try. We have to make the decision. As coaches, we're either going to help people or we're not. And those that try often, I find, don't last. They just don't last, whether it's some of the clients or whether it's a coach. There's a lot of coaches that are not sitting on this call because, well, they're going to try, and they haven't lasted. And so I know there's I'm going to see if I can share my screen really quick. It's a structural tension chart. It's what I lived by in my early years of coaching. And essentially, let me see, hold on. I am not good, and they just changed Zoom. So what are you guys seeing? Oh, you're seeing like Zoom. Okay, here, where is it? Well, here it is. Are you seeing, do you guys see that? Kind of? You see that little screenshot? Yes, Jen? Okay. Okay, I don't know how big it is, so I'll try to make it bigger. But, okay, so this is a structural tension chart. And this is how I, on the business tip, this is how I grew my business. And this is how I started with where I was at. And I started the exact same place that you guys are at. No clients, no income, and a very full schedule. But I wrote up here, and honestly, my first goal was to help my friend. I had a list of names. So up here at the top, my goal was, and I had some names of people, my mom and my husband were definitely the top 2. But I needed, it was also about income for me. And so I had written down $2,000 a month. And then I wrote the action by which it was going to have to take place. And this is really where I organized my time. And then I wrote down dates because I started in August. I gave myself till December to start earning $2,000 a month. That was mine because we were in an urgent financial situation. So some of your financial situations aren't as urgent, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if So whatever that is, on the finances, or, you have these people in your life that you want to help. So then I wrote down, and I actually had to live it out. The busyness didn't go away. The fun factor was not always there. Sometimes it was harder than others. Some days it was like, ugh. There were many days that I got up at 6 a.m. Some of you are like, big deal. My kids, we have a late start at school at 9 a.m. here, so my kids aren't really up until 7. So I would get up an hour before them to contact people on my hundreds list. I would stay up late at night. I had to restructure my time with my husband so that I could do evening client support calls because, most people were available in the beginning. My first 5 clients pretty much all needed to talk to me in the evening, and that's when my kids were home, and it was crazy. So Thursday nights, Marcus did dinner and took the kids on Thursday nights. But I had to I wrote these practical actions here, and this is how I grew. So I would encourage you to not just try, but to make the decision that you're going to start a client by the end of the month. Some of you guys need 5 clients by the end of the month to hit some of the goals that you want to hit. I watched Ashley Monzon do that this month. We met at the first part of the month. We've been going to coffee maybe every other week. And we met and she's like, okay, well, then this is what I'm going to do. And she did it. She started 5 new clients this month. And, we did boot camp. She trains a boot camp, and I went down to Chula Vista on Saturday, and she's like, I did it. I don't know how I did it. I'm like, I know how you did it. You took all the practical action steps you said you were going to at the beginning of the month, and then you lived it out, and you did absolutely everything that you set out to do. So, I'm not trying, you do whatever you want to do. That's the beauty of this thing. And there are seasons of our life that, it ebbs and flows, but I do want to encourage you, especially as you're starting new clients, when they say they're just going to try, I would encourage you to probe deeper. Go, okay, well, what does that mean exactly? And then you as coaches, when you're talking to your sponsoring coach, or when you're thinking about your life and what's going on, when you say things like, ugh, even if it's internally and you're listening, I've had talks with Doug and Tia sometimes because they're my sponsor coach and they're my mentors in this area. And they'll be telling me things, I'll be inside, I'm like, I'll try. I have to check myself. What is that attitude for? Why am I what's going on in my life? What's wrong, Jen? Because I either will or I won't. Either I can or I can't. Sometimes the answer is no, I can't. That's okay too. But at least then you've made the decision. So when it doesn't produce, you're like, well, yeah, no, because I said I couldn't. And when you've made the decision that you will, sometimes I shoot the bar high and I don't always hit it exactly, but I can get a lot further than I would have if I wouldn't have tried it all. Oh, I just said try, but you know what I'm saying. I wouldn't have decided it all. So you decide what the rest of this week's going to look like for you, and then help your pre-clients, new clients, people in your life that you're layering, that you're trying to help them decide. You either are or you aren't. So what are we going to do? Are you ready to get started? So we have 5 more minutes because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Any questions, thoughts, statements, anything? Or do we cover all our bases?
Is that structural tension chart in the document library? I know it's in the book, but is that printout?
It is. It is in the document library, but I will also see if I can load it onto I'm trying to think if it's in Simple Systems. It may not be in Simple Systems. So I'll load it as a PDF for you guys to print off. Tina Marie, she might be nursing her baby. Tina Marie is helps me all the time load stuff because I took typing. I graduated in 1992. I think I had an Apple IIc at my house. I'm not exactly computer savvy. But I will get it loaded up there today. Jen Lowe, yes.
Do you know off the top of your head where it is in the book? I can't find it.
In the companion guide, it's in lessons 4 through 6.
Okay. I haven't opened that book in a while. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is something your clients get to go through. And sometimes, my friends, I skip my clients to this. If it's week 2, and they're like, I'm so hungry. I hate the shakes. Okay, let's talk about what you want. Okay, so where are we at? And I will say, you know what? Why don't you take a look at lessons 4 through 6, and let's follow up in a couple days. Or for the client that's down 20 and has 60 to lose, I'm like, I know you've done so great. I celebrate what they've done. And then We have a little bit further to go. Always invite them to anybody want to join you on this journey because it always helps. But then I'm like, you know what? I think it's time for us to, let's do lessons 4 through 6. And sometimes I'll skip them there because it's a valuable piece. And then I would encourage all of you guys to do it for your own personal life or your business.
Yeah, it'd be a good refresher.
It is a good refresher.
Go ahead. If somebody has questions. Well, I have a tough time. I know we have the guide that recommends when to have clients read certain parts of the book. And sometimes I feel like introducing the books too early is discouraging or too much for people. Does anybody have any good insight on sharing or motivating people to get into the book? I have clients who won't open it at all because it's too intimidating. As much as I try to recommend working through some of their triggers and this and that, diving into a book just seems really overwhelming for a lot of people. Does anybody have any recommendations on how to get people to actually do it?
Go for it, Jeannie.
I'll say that I didn't want to read the book at all. Oh, did Jeannie gonna talk?
Yeah, but that's okay. Go for it.
Sorry. I heard Janine. All I know is my personal experience. I didn't want to read the book at all because I was like, forget this. I'm just going to do the stuff. But I started seeing the results when I read the book because that's when the empowerment happens. That's when I think the clients I have who read the book take charge of their own health and they're not relying on me. So I think it's kind of a matter of saying like, this is going to be your tool to success. But just getting over the fears of like, why aren't you reading the book? Like, what about it is scary? Have you read like a chapter? You can skip around. It's not like you have to read it in order. Kind of giving them different tips to start opening it. And then it's not intimidating once they start opening it, is what I would say.
Good. Jeannie?
I also base it on what I'm listening to during our client calls. If I hear a specific, something specific that I know I can find particularly in a book, I'll have my book with me and a table of contents during the call. And instead of saying, okay, I want you to read these chapters, I'll say specifically on page, you might want to read that. I found this to be helpful when I felt that way, or I found other clients found this part helpful. So it's not as intimidating, and then it dives them into the book, and they might end up reading more than just those pages.
Yeah. Renee mentioned something similar, that she's opened it up with them while they're on the phone. And Jeannie did that to Momi all the time. Momi was Jeannie's client and now coach. So one thing I would like to encourage you with is based on your different personality temperaments, this is like, oh my gosh, you have to read the book. And some of you are like, it's okay. Like, I honestly, when I hear that, for me personally, I'm like, it's their choice if they want to read it or not. And also, I personally don't want to shut someone down because I don't want them to feel like I'm their teacher. And I value the teachers in my kid's life, but I'm out of school now. So I don't really need a parent or a teacher. I'm 42. And so sometimes when I hear that, my not always a rule follower goes, I'm not reading the book. So just be careful. You're not dealing with people that think just like you. And though while it's extremely valuable information, guiding them through it and not making them have a homework assignment is very important. And I also don't want to give them too much at once. It's kind of like with exercise, when people are so concerned about exercise, I actually try to you know what, let's talk about that at the end of your second week. Let's just get our mind wrapped around the food plan because this is what they've done. This is why they're on the cycle, because they've stopped eating, started exercising, and got a new workout outfit, right, Jen Hoffman? All on the same day, and they crashed and burned by day 3.
Don't forget, you got to spend 3 hours making your playlist for the
right. Right.
On that. Well, I was going to say that this is so I only am with one person right now too. I've waited 3 weeks for her, and in fact, we were just texting about it yesterday. And I asked her, would you like to start getting into the book? It is going to give you a little bit more structure. And I will say that is one thing of through my weight loss journey was a switch for me, is focus on one habit at a time. because when you do focus on all of it, it blows up. It always blows up. So even if it's a small thing, like this week, let's focus on water or whatever it is, I felt like that was really helpful to me and probably could be really helpful to other people, just to go slow. You got to go slow to go fast, right, Jen?
So good. That's so true. I like what you just said. Ask them and invite them into it. And definitely around like week 3 is probably a good idea. And then one thing that I don't usually even suggest the big living a longer, healthier life. I pretty much only, because the companion guide will lead them to that. But that other thing's like an encyclopedia. So I personally, like, because I hadn't been on program, because I do believe that I had to know what I was teaching. So that's why I went on program and started coaching at the same time. Like, I tried to absorb it. I ended up like, it almost shut me down. So I personally went through the whole companion guide instead. And then sometimes when I was like, I'm confused on this, it'll tell you, go to page 122 in the Living a Longer, Healthier Life. Or this is covering chapters 1 through 4 in Longer, Healthier Life. So I usually just guide my clients through the companion guide until we hit transition, because the other book is really good through chapter 12 is amazing for transition. So anyways, good question. I think we all struggle with that. It's not uncommon. I want you to know my husband is an amazing leader. He's a total learner, and he tells this to me all the time. Stop trying to make them read. People don't read. I'm like, but he's like, I'm just telling you. He's like, and dudes don't read. And my husband reads all the time, but just the average. I wish Brad was on this call, because Brad would be like, Brad just told me that. He's like, is it on audio? Because I'm not going to read it. So, I mean, that's just kind of that's just the facts of life. So don't feel like you're a failure. You're doing great as a coach. Invite them and then guide them and help them take one step at like bite off a little bit at a time. Okay, great. Great questions, good info. I will hopefully post this, and I'm going to also post the structural tension. So I got a 10:30, so I got to get out, but I will talk to you guys soon.